Good morning, everyone. I hope that you're doing well and that you're hard at work finishing up your summative project for contemporary communication practices. This is just a very quick tutorial just to make sure that you cover the nuts and bolts of what you should be doing for your summative portfolio. Remember that you have to submit on the 13th of November before 9 o'clock question 1 as well as question 2.1. So that would be the presentation PowerPoint or the slides. You can either convert them to PDF and submit them as a separate file, but I would recommend that you embed them in your assignment so that it forms part of your summative submission. You can do that by doing screenshots of each and every one of your slides and then including it under the heading question 2.1, or you can attach it as an addendum, but either way, it needs to be submitted so that I can review your actual slides. Just getting back to the brief very quickly, I just want to draw your attention that you should begin each section on a new page. That includes for question 1, which is the feasibility report. Your executive summary would be on one page, and then you would have the remainder of the sections on their own pages. And then also please refer to um, the portfolio brief as a guideline in what you should be doing, and also refer to the rubric. Okay, don't spend too much time, and that's something that I need to emphasize. Don't spend too much time on the bells and whistles, including a cover page picture and borders and a lot of lengthy exposition, background on the chosen brands, where they come from, when they started, um, growth, a timeline of how they evolved and how they grew or challenge. Don't spend too much time on the things that doesn't have mark weighting. So rather refer to the rubric for guidelines on what you should be spending your time on. Then also just an iteration that's you have to submit question 1 and 2.1. Then just a note, negative marking will apply. Now, this specifically deals with spelling, grammar, format, language, style. Please make sure that you paraphrase your work. I think that that's the most important part. Don't just copy and paste from sections that you read in Johnson and Sheehan or on the company's website or anywhere else. It needs to sound like you so that it forms a cohesive piece. Okay. Um, and that's very important. So you need to paraphrase, and then also you have to reference consistently. I would recommend that there needs to be at the very least 12 to 15 references. Johnson and Sheehan would already be one. The website for your chosen brand would already be another one. And then you can just choose 10 or 13 other sources to consult. Okay, but you have to in-text reference as well as reference. Then it gets to the project brief. You have to do a feasibility report for the particular chosen brand, either Costco or Fubo, whichever one that you chose. You have to do a feasibility report of them launching in South Africa. So make that your main thing when it comes to your recommendations that you need to focus on. Is it feasible for Costco or for Fubo to launch in South Africa? Yes or no? Why and why not? And if you say why, and my recommendation is, always recommend that your chosen brand should launch in South Africa, how should they launch, based on your research? Okay. Um, I just very quickly want to also get to what you will be scored marks for. In your feasibility report, this is for question 1, you will be scored marks for your title page, your table of contents. I have uploaded a template of a table of contents under more resources, under the heading Summative Project Support Material. You'll find a template for a table of contents there. You're more than welcome to utilize it. If you have your own one, I'm not going to hold it against you. But also then for your title page, remember that it has to have um, the logo of your chosen brand. It has to have feasibility report. It has to have from, which is from you. It has to be to, which is to me or the board of directors of Fubo or Costco. It has to have the date in there as well. Okay, as at a bare minimum, and then also the title of your feasibility report, so it should say something to the likes of feasibility of launching Fubo in South Africa 2024, or whatever the case might be. Right. Then just to let you know, um, it should be between 2,500 and 3,200 words. That's a play of 700 words or so. I won't mark for question 1 anything that exceeds 3,200 words. Okay, just to be mindful of it. Then for question number 2, your oral presentation, it's divided into 2 components. The first component is your PowerPoint slides. This is what you will be submitting on the 13th of November, along with question number 1. And then also, obviously, we've set some time aside on Friday the 10th. That would be from 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock. I'm going to close the doors at 5:10. So if you're not seated, I'm going to close the door. All right, so please make sure that you are at the venue. I think it's going to be venue 8 at 5 o'clock seated so that we can start by, I want to start by 5:15 at the latest with the first presentation. So just to make sure that you present and submit accordingly. So you will be presenting on your results, a discussion on those results, and then also the recommendations that you've made. Okay, if I were you, I just include the research plan, a brief overview of the research plan that led to the results. So don't just start with the results. It's going to feel too disconnected. So first start with um, this is what will be presented. This is the intention of the feasibility report. This is how the feasibility report was researched. These are the results, and then you present the results. This is what the results mean or what it could mean, and then you get to the recommendations. From the research, I recommend that Costco launch in South Africa in 2024. It should launch in these kinds of locales, um, and it should target these sort of people, and then we can look at a year-on-year introduction of 5 more or 10 more uh, Costco Costco's around the country. You have to talk to your recommendation a little bit and motivate it from your research. All right. So I just wanted to show you what a previous student of mine did, and I can share this with you because you're not doing the same thing. But just also to show you what this student did. The student achieved, I don't want to lie, but it was definitely a distinction. So this is what the student's cover page looked like. This is what the table of contents look like. And at any stage, I mean, this is a recording. You can stop and you can re-listen to it. They had a list of figures. You have to include a figure as well. Their executive summary was a little bit long. If I were you, I would condense it just to include the key findings. I think that the student lost marks for a lengthy executive summary, but I mean, again, that is, I'm not going to be too restrictive. This was the student's introduction. This was the research plan. So they had an introduction to the research plan, which was actually quite nice. It sort of contextualized what the research was going to be about. Then the research subject, and then also the political context, the economic context. Remember, we spoke about context. You did this in your first assignment for CCPR, the physical context, the ethical contexts they spoke about. They also included an audience, like who is the audience, the primary audience, the secondary audience, they referred to it. Then for their research, they did a quantitative study, which basically meant that they were looking at a research question and a hypothesis. So the research question was, is it viable to launch Tesla electric vehicle in Cape Town's automotive market? And then they had their hypothesis, which they tested. The research methodology they had in there as well. They did a triangular study. You guys don't have to do that, but triangulation just basically means what were the thoughts and opinions of respondents that they interviewed, as well as looking at automotive vehicle sales, which is more quantitative. So they triangulated those results. You can do your own thing there. And then they included some figures. So here, for example, the only thing that I would include is like where the source, where they got this from, you know. But this is what I would have scored marks for. I would have scored marks for a title. I would have scored marks for labels. I would have scored marks for actual figures. I would have scored marks for the table. So these are what I would have scored marks for, and then obviously also for the source. Okay, so make sure that you include those. This is the discussion of that table and what it means. So you have to do the same thing. And okay, they included more tables. I want to get to this. Okay, so here the student also did a discussion. All of this is part of the discussion, hey, of the research. And then in the conclusion, which you can also call your recommendation section. In fact, I would prefer it if you call this recommendation. They then specifically said, I think, here we go. This is the recommendation. So they spoke specifically about some of the key findings, and then they would say things like, you know, respondents had a positive attitude towards the introduction of the electrical vehicle, you know, which they would have gotten from their research. I want to get to the actual recommendation. Here we go. So finally, after your discussion, there has to be this section. Okay. Let me do this. There has to be this section. It can be concluded that if the board of directors in Tesla follow the recommendation provided, they could make an informed decision about successful and viably launching the Model 3 electric vehicle in the Cape Town automotive market. Okay. In fact, here, they started their recommendation here. So there has to be a very clear recommendation. Yes, according to the research and for the following reasons that you found from your research, it would be recommended that Costco launch in South Africa in 2024 in the following markets, or that Fubo launch as subscription television in the following markets. Okay, I hope that you found this tutorial useful and helpful. Best of luck with the rest of your research and preparation.